That night, Zhang and Wanting's wedding caused quite a stir in the small town. The event was grand and luxurious, with almost everyone from the town's elite attending to celebrate the couple. The banquet hall was brightly lit, decorated with flowers and ribbons, like something out of a dream. The groom, Zhang, looked sharp in his suit, and the bride, Wanting, beamed in her white wedding dress. Everyone was blessing the happy couple. Standing next to Wanting was her cousin, Li Ruo, who was the bridesmaid. Li Ruo looked a bit nervous, but kept a polite smile on her face. Li Ruo had always been shy and quiet, not good at socializing, but she had a strong bond with Wanting. Despite her nervousness, she agreed to be the bridesmaid. However, the joyful atmosphere of the wedding gradually took a dark turn due to the effects of alcohol. As the night went on, guests were drinking, toasting, and laughing. Zhang's friends, one by one, got drunk. At first, they were just joking around, making some harmless fun. But as more alcohol flowed, their behavior changed. A few of Zhang's drunken friends turned their attention to Li Ruo, and their words became increasingly rude. One of them got close to her, speaking in a lewd tone, while another reached out to pull at her dress. At first, Li Ruo tried to avoid them, frowning and stepping away, but they surrounded her like predators closing in on their prey, forcing her into a corner of the banquet hall. Wanting noticed the situation and rushed over to help, but she was no match for the group of drunk men. Zhang was busy greeting other guests and didn't notice the chaos happening nearby. Li Ruo was filled with fear and humiliation. She struggled, but the drunk men didn't care. In front of everyone, they yanked down her dress strap. The scene became a mess. Some people saw it, but no one dared to intervene. When things escalated and they dragged Li Ruo into a small room, Wanting and her bridesmaids burst in just in time to stop them from doing worse. Li Ruo, overwhelmed by shame and despair, pushed them away and fled the hall, her mind in turmoil. She ran through the dark streets, tears streaming down her face. The cold night wind hit her, but it couldn't cool the fire of humiliation burning inside her. Li Ruo kept running, eventually reaching the woods outside of town, a place she used to visit as a child. But now it felt eerie and ominous. Her legs grew heavy, her thoughts a blur. The pain and disgrace consumed her mind. After the wedding, Wanting realized Li Ruo had been missing for hours. A terrible feeling crept over her. She immediately gathered Zhang and a few friends from town, and they all went searching for Li Ruo. That night, the sky was dark, with clouds covering the moon. The wind howled through the trees, making the whole forest feel even more frightening. They searched through the woods with flashlights, the atmosphere growing more tense by the minute. Finally, after nearly 2 hours, they found Li Ruo near an old, abandoned cabin deep in the woods. The sight was one that Wanting would never forget. Li Ruo had hanged herself. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, and her eyes were half open, showing the pain and despair she felt before dying. The ground beneath her feet was disturbed, as if she had tried to fight back in her final moments, but couldn't escape her fate. Li Ruo's death shocked the entire town. The police investigated, and the men who harassed her were brought in for questioning. But because of their powerful family connections and lack of strong evidence, they were never properly punished. The people of the town were angry but powerless. They chose to stay silent, and over time, Li Ruo's death was quietly forgotten, as if it had never happened. The town returned to its calm, ordinary life, or so it seemed. But the real terror had only just begun. The first to die was Zhang Qiang. One night, while alone at home, he woke up to a sudden chill. He looked around and noticed that his room had grown unnaturally cold. There was even a thin layer of frost on the window. He scanned the room and froze when he saw a figure standing by his bed. It was a woman, dressed in a bridesmaid's dress. Her face was pale, her eyes cold, staring straight at him. Zhang Qiang was terrified, but his body wouldn't move. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The woman slowly moved closer, a strange smile creeping across her face. The next morning, Zhang Qiang was found dead in his home. The police ruled it a heart attack, but the people of the town knew something wasn't right. After that, the other men who had harassed Li Ruo began to die one by one. Some suffocated in their sleep, while others met mysterious accidents while out. Each one died with a look of pure terror on their face, as if they had seen something too horrible to describe. Rumors started to spread that Li Ruo's ghost had come back for revenge. Zhang, who hadn't taken part in the harassment, began to feel increasingly uneasy. After seeing his friends die one after another, his discomfort turned to fear. He tried to investigate the deaths, but no matter how hard he looked, he couldn't find any rational explanation. One night, Zhang was jolted awake from a nightmare. In the dream, he had seen Li Ruo standing in her bridesmaid's dress, her eyes filled with sorrow and anger, walking slowly toward her death. He awoke drenched in sweat. The room was silent, but the air was thick with a chilling presence. Zhang knew Li Ruo's ghost wouldn't harm him. He had never done anything to her. But those who had wronged her had all paid the price. Each time someone died, Zhang felt a mix of emotions, relief that he was spared, and sorrow for the tragedy that had unfolded. In the end, Li Ruo's ghost completed her revenge, and no more accidents occurred. Zhang, burdened with guilt and sorrow, eventually left the town, hoping to escape the curse that hung over the land. But no matter how far he went, he could never forget the wedding or the look in Li Ruo's eyes. Back in the small town, people stopped talking about the wedding, and Li Ruo's name became a forbidden subject. Everyone knew that, even though her ghost was no longer seen, her resentment still lingered in the town, like a wound that would never heal.